Thank you for clicking on the video. Here today at Nerd we are going to do a quick overview on dungeon crawlers. And that's our favorite genre board game here at the household and with friends. And these games we have in front of us are all from the 1970s and 80s. And believe it or not, they're all new and sealed. And they all have some uniqueness to them, and we'll talk about each one in turn. Before we do that, if you love dungeon crawlers, check out our free giveaway for 2 dungeon crawlers down below. I'll put the link there. And hopefully you can like and subscribe and share this channel with others. And don't miss out when we unseal one of these. And so let me know in the comments down below which one would you like us to unseal first. So let's talk about the first one here. Dungeon. This came out in 1975 by TSR. And it's considered the first dungeon crawler ever made. This box in front of us is the second printing. The first printing had a box going in this orientation, and now with the second printing, it's more in the standard upright format that was called the bookcase format. That was more popular at the time. If you have an old Avalon Hill game, you know what I'm talking about. So you would basically take this board game, and when you're done with it, you put it on your bookshelf along with your hardback books. So that's why that was a popular format in the past. So this dungeon crawler, is still in print, and the first iteration is essentially the same. Had a paper mat instead of cardboard playboard. But yeah, it has the same idea. Multiple cards that you place in rooms. Your hero would venture into a room, encounter a monster, roll a dice, see if you defeat the monster, and accumulate loot. And of course, your end goal was to escape the dungeon with the most loot possible. So that's a classic dungeon, and we talked about this game before in the past. So let's move on to the next one. So this game here, Quest for the Magic Ring. This also came out in 1975. However, I believe a little bit later than Dungeon. This game is unique for a couple reasons. First of all, the main reason is this game was banned. So why is that? Well, if you take a look closely, you would, of course, assume that this is Lord of the Rings. I mean, you got a character here that looks like Gandalf, got some small people that look like hobbits, right? And it even says here, a game of adventure in mythical Earth for 2 to 7 players. But if you notice, it doesn't actually say Middle Earth. It says mythical Earth. So this game got banned, of course, because it wasn't actually authorized by the Tolkien estate. You can flip to the back here. And it says 1 ring to bind them all. But the actual quote is supposed to be 1 ring to rule them all. And yes, it has the ring. It has down here a friendly gray robed wizard, a ranger, which of course would be Aragon, black riders, armies of orcs. And so it doesn't show the game board here, but basically you have 7 starting positions, depending on which character you play. And it is a simple roll and move game. And instead of being an actual dungeon, it's more of an overland adventure. But this game is actually considered quite good, even though it wasn't actually officially authorized by the Tolkien estate. And is considered to actually be a pretty good Lord of the Rings game. So yeah, maybe we will unseal this one first. The shrink wrap is already coming off anyways. So the next game we have here is the Sorcerer's Cave. This came out in 1978. This game was published in England, and it's unique for a couple of reasons. Doesn't say here, but this game you could play it solo. It also, you can run it cooperatively, which was pretty rare back then. The other thing very unique about this game, and I believe it's the first game with actually dungeon tiles. That's pretty common nowadays. With a dungeon crawler, you have different tiles denoting different rooms. Well, this game started it all. And the tiles are pretty big, maybe like a postcard size, or maybe a 3 by 5. My memory escapes me, but yeah, we could unseal this one next and check out the components in the future. But it does have dungeon tiles, and so that was a unique concept back then. This subsequent game, Mystic Wood, it's by the same designer as Sorcerer's Cave. So this came out 2 years later, in 1980. So there's some modifications to the rule set. Basically, you do have set goals here, and sort of a random dungeon such as this. This is set in the forest, and each character will have specific goals to accomplish. So this box is sealed, but you can see that some mold has creeped in through the little holes. But yeah, it'd be fun to check out this game for you guys. So that might be a game we might unseal next. Now this game, Hero, this game came out in 1980 as well. Now this game was published by the Yaquinto group, and the unique thing about this game is, I don't know if you can tell, but this game is in a square LP album folder, LP or vinyl record. You have to be a certain generation to know what a record is. And music back in the old days came out on big, large slabs of plastic, and you would have this album folder to protect it. So this thin folder has the actual board game. So let's flip it to the back here, and when we open up these games, we'll of course go into more details, but let me just go quick over here. It has the various different counters, and you can see here that the album folder folds out, that is, and has a board within, and then of course rule sets and counters within, and then you play your game on the actual album cover here. And of course there's several notations all over this game saying that it has game only. There's no actual record within. But this is a pretty cool format. So this company actually made multiple games in this format. However, this is the only fantasy version. So it is a dungeon crawler. So that'll be fun to check out too. And the last one I have here, well, actually before we talk about that, there's some other games that came out in between. This is Talisman. This came out in 1983. This is not the original version. The original version is a little bit hard to find, put out by Games Workshop. This is a reprint, and this is the 4th edition. This game is still readily available. It's published by Pegasus Games now, and so you can find it easily. So this is a classic dungeon crawler. Has a huge board, and you have miniatures, and it's still a roll and move game, and you go to different locations, and basically you're trying to get to the center location and get a ground or whatnot. There are different endings you have, and there are tons of expansions now for this game. So this is a very classic dungeon crawler. Another game by Games Workshop that came out in 1987 is this one, Dungeon Quest. Now, this, of course, is not the original version. This is the new revised version by Fantasy Flight Games. It's not in print anymore, but you still can find this Dungeon Quest game, or at least this version, easier than the old Games Workshop version. So this game itself, you have a large board, and you have little tiles that you place on the board, and you have a certain time limit to reach the center to get the treasure from the dragon and escape. So this is a classic dungeon crawler, and we'll check it out in the future. And the last one I have here is The Legend of Heroes. This came out in 1987. And this is published by TSR. We talked about this game in the past. And this game is like the first game, Dungeon. It has a board with different rooms. And what's unique about this game is it has multiple cards, and each room has a card, and it could daisy chain to another card, and to another card, and create a little story. So this is a pretty cool game. And to be honest with you, I think this is probably the best game in my opinion compared to all these others. But once again, that's just my opinion. And so those are all the games we have here. At least from the 1970s and 80s. And if there's any other dungeon crawler that you know of that I might have missed, let me know in the comments down below. Be happy to check it out, obtain it for the channel, and make a video about it. So it'll be fun. And once again, let me know in the comments down below which game you'd like us to unseal and check out first. I have to admit, I probably will leave this one sealed. This one's in pretty good condition. I mean, I think it's essentially flawless. If I had it rated, it probably could be sealed and sold at a 9.0 rating at least. But so who knows? Maybe I'll get that done and pass it as an heirloom. Wouldn't that be strange to pass a dungeon crawler board game as an heirloom? But you know, you're talking to the nerd mimic here, so who knows? Thank you for listening to my ramblings and checking out these games with me, and hopefully you learn something new. And once again, we'll talk about each game subsequently as we get into it and open them up. Thank you for watching. Everyone have a great night. Keep on adventuring.